And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host and author, Sarah DeBello, and I am so excited to welcome back tonight two of my favorite writers and humans. That is, of course, best-selling authors Jeffery, Deaver, and Isabella Maldonado, here to give us the scoop on their, to give us the inside scoop on their second book together, The Grave Artist. Guys, welcome back. Jeff, tell us about this book.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And as you will know, our wonderful audience, that Sarah, you broke the story of the collaboration between Isabella and myself and introduced the world to Jake Heron and Carmen Sanchez a few years ago. Oh, my gosh, when was that? Maybe 3 years ago at this point, correct?
Yeah, and you know I love to break a story, Jeff. You know I love to break a story.
That hard-hitting journalist that you are. Okay, well, just in a nutshell, The Grave Artist is the sequel to Fatal Intrusion, which came out last year. And in it, Isabella and I continue the saga of Jake Heron and Carmen Sanchez, Jake being, like myself, a bit of a nerd, a professorial nerd, a computer expert, a former black hat hacker. That is not myself, I will add quickly. And he, for various reasons, has to team up with a potentially nemesis, potentially more than that, character from his past, Carmen Sanchez, a federal agent. In this book, we continue the story, and it's about a horrific, serial killer, sort of. And maybe what I'll do now is hand over to Isabella, because she came up with the germ of the idea that became The Grave Artist.
Oh, give us the scoop, Isabella. Tell us everything.
Okay, so the germ started because we were thinking about the fact that so many people write serial killer thrillers, and we wanted to do something fresh and different. And we were sort of brainstorming and kind of challenging each other, you know, what have you not seen, and this kind of thing. And then the idea came about, like, what would be worse than being a victim of a serial killer? Because, like, it's hard to imagine anything worse, right? So how do you up that? Well, it's about all of everybody around you and all of the suffering that they would go through. And then on top of that, having it happen on your wedding day, like what's supposed to be the happiest day of your life and the beginning of the rest of your life becomes the end of your life.
Oh my God. It literally does not get any worse than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited to chat with you guys. We had a ton of people submit questions in advance, and we are broadcasting live to 7 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So welcome, mystery and thriller lovers, those who are watching with us and those who will watch later. You are in the right place. It is the right time. It is Mystery Monday, and because Mondays can be murder, we are going to make them a little less painful and get your week off to a killer start. So if you've been with us before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome, friends. Here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask these 2 incredible creatives about their creative collaboration, their individual writing processes, anything that is weighing on your mind. Just get it going in the comments. I'll get them right over to them. Randy is joining us from YouTube. He's saying greetings from hot and humid Indiana. Welcome, Randy. Good to have you with us. And we have Sharon joining us from YouTube as well, saying howdy. I'm so happy to see you. We're so happy to see you, Sharon. Welcome. John is joining us from Northeast Ohio on Facebook. John, welcome to the conversation. Welcome everyone who is watching. Now, some people submitted questions in advance, so I do want to jump right into those while everyone else is getting their questions going. So the first one was about how you blend your voices. Saying you each have such distinctive writing styles. How did you go about blending your voices so that the Grave Artists reads seamlessly as one story? Did you each handle one point of view? Did you edit each other? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, sure. I'll start first, then Isabella, of course, can jump in. When we, and actually later we may talk a little bit about the very unusual way in which we met and decided to collaborate. But the question was a little bit more about technique, so I'll focus on that at the moment. We are both outliners. I'm a bit of an obsessive outliner, as you may know from my, if you've heard my courses or seen me on any media. And this was no exception for both Fatal Intrusion and The Grave Artist. We planned things out ahead of time. Joyce Carol Oates said you cannot write your first sentence until you know what the last sentence is. And I firmly believe that. And so what we did was spend about 3 months, well, maybe not that long, maybe 2 months, over the course of 10-hour days, many conversations. Verizon and AT&T and Sprint love us because we ran up those phone bills. I travel internationally a lot, so I don't even want to know what those cost. But we talked it through, came up with the outline, and by the end of the day, make that 2 months, 2.5 months, we had maybe a 55-chapter outline. And then because we write from a third-person close point of view, in other words, if those of you who are not familiar with that, that means each chapter is in the mind of a different character. And then we go to the next chapter, and that becomes a different character's mind and voice we're in. And so with the two characters, Carmen Sanchez being a woman federal officer, Jake Heron being, again, a bit of a male, bit of a nerdy professorial sort, I tended to write more of those chapters, but I wrote some of Carmen's. Isabella wrote more of Carmen's, but she wrote some of Jake's. And then we kind of flipped a coin to see who was going to, have the fun of writing the bad guys chapters. Like if the cable repairman didn't show up at my house, then I was really angry. So I say, I want to write the bad guy chapters today. Ooh. And so then we ruthlessly edited each other, and over and over again did 30 or 40 rewrites, and so the stories blended and became one voice.
Wait, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You both wanted to write the bad guy, or neither of you wanted to write the bad guy?
Oh, we both wanted to write the bad guy. Who doesn't love to be villains,
Is this true, Isabella? Why did you want to write the bad guy?
Absolutely. It's like Jeff was saying, if I was having a day and I was feeling shooty and stabby, I wanted to write the bad guy. Get it all out on the page.
So, so you, Isabella, you mostly wrote Carmen then, and Jeff, you mostly wrote Jake, and then did you take turns on writing the bad guy, or you per chapter, or how did that go?
Well, because we already had an outline, and the outline we were working from had chapters, we would kind of like claim a chapter, if that makes any sense. So I would highlight it like in pink, and he would highlight it in blue if we wanted to write that particular chapter. I know it's very traditional. But the important thing to note, and this kind of gets to the question that we were being asked, which is it was a matter of getting the whole first draft down. And then after that, we declared a no ego zone, and we just ruthlessly edited each other. And we kept at it until it did seem like a smooth piece of work. And the voice was much more coherent.
At one point I said to Isabella, that was a great chapter there. I thought that was really good. She said, Jeff, you wrote that. And, But the fact is, we both wrote it, and that no ego zone is very important. Anyone in the audience who is an author considering writing with someone else, it's got to be fun. We've never had a single argument. We've had creative disagreements because we both have concepts of creating the best book we can for the readers. That's our sole goal. This is not about us. This is about, we get paid to make up stuff. Does it get any better than that? Ha ha ha! And we don't work in Washington D.C. I had to add that part. But the fact is that we're always thinking, is this going to be good for the reader or that? And I, for one, at one point put in what we decided was a twist too far. We like our twists and turns. And, it was sort of akin to the thing that, like at the end of Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, the villain has been chopped up. He's been thrown through a wood chipper. His head is sent one way, his feet are sent another. And, of course, at the last scene, the heroine opens the closet, and there he is again. And that's, the script writer's convention. I tend to skew a little in that direction, a little too much. And so Isabella had said, I'm not sure. This detracts from the real twists. And God bless, that was absolutely right. And then, in fairness, I had suggested that one of her interrogation scenes might have been a bit excessive. Now, I've never interrogated anybody. She knows, a former police officer, police captain. She knows how this stuff works. But I thought it might be a little excessive. So, in all good spirit, we toned each other down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Let's jump into this question from George. He says, while reading both of their books, I noticed that Mr. Deaver tends tends to lean more toward multi-layered plots and shock, while Ms. Maldonado leans more toward balancing a strong plot and the development of the main character emotionally, as well as a focus on how the case affects their personal life. If they feel that these are accurate descriptions, do you believe that these skill sets, being very complementary to one another, is an additional reason that you both believe that this partnership would work? What a very thoughtful question, George. Thank you.
Wow. Yes.
So first, let's start with you, Jeff. Do you agree with that description of your work on the multi-layered plots and shock? Is that a good description of your work, would you say?
Yes, thank you, George, for that very perceptive and articulate question, and you're very observant, because it's true. I live for the twist. I've written 50 novels, over 100 short stories. They all have at least a twist in them. The novels have 2 or 3 twists. It's very pyrotechnic. Think of the TV show 24. Now, I live for that. I have a short boredom. I have a short attention span, a very low boredom tolerance. So I throw in as much as I possibly can, roller coaster after roller coaster. Now, the best plots in the world, however, are useless without characters. So in general, in my writing, characters come a little bit later. Now, and I'll let Isabella talk about the counterpoint to that. But we had to make sure that the characters, Jake and Carmen, and the secondary and tertiary characters were fully formed, were wholly fleshed out, because otherwise those plots would have been pretty useless.
What about you, Isabella? Let's start first with, do you agree with George that you lean more toward balancing a strong plot and the development of the main character emotionally, as well as a focus on how the case affects their personal life? Would you say that's a good description of your solo books?
George is spot on. Absolutely. Very, very observant of him. And it is true in that when I am working on all of my characters are in multiple books, I do kind of imagine a character arc over the course of a few books. And actually, Jeff and I did do this when we first got together to write. The original contract was a 2-book contract, but we had imagined that there would be more. And so we did immediately start laying down the groundwork for an emotional journey and a character arc, because as much as we write like a high octane thriller, both of us do have a deep understanding that if all these exciting things happen to someone that you don't care about, then what's the point? You need the full engagement of a thrilling plot with someone who's dealing with incredible emotions, and you put them through the crucible, and then you see how they come out and how they're different at the end. I love doing that.
Thank you for that very thoughtful, very observant question, George, and honing in on these wonderful points about both Jeff and Isabella's writing styles individually, and I love seeing how you blended your very different styles together. That's really cool. Another question that we had submitted in advance was about trust and vulnerability. Writing can be deeply personal. What did you learn about each other's creative strengths or vulnerabilities? Did anything surprise you in the process? Isabella, let's start with you first. Anything surprise you about Mr. Deaver?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like when you first start writing with someone, you never know. And I remember going into it thinking, okay, if he had a mind to do so, he could be a diva. Again, he's written 50 books. He's sold 50 million books all over the world, movies, television. I mean, he's a rock star. So I'm like, okay, he could, but guess what? I learned he is, and I got this sense of him because we did become friends first, but you never know till you start working together how it's really going to go. And he is the most humble and kind person. You can't imagine how nice it is. And he is very humble. And from the very beginning, he's like, look, just edit my stuff. And it has to be, and we both felt the same way. It has to be for the reader. And if you put the reader first and not whatever your own thoughts are about your ego, your story, your precious words, you really can't go wrong. And that was like a huge and incredibly wonderful, pleasant surprise.
Jeff,
I think I
anything
knew.
about
Sure,
Ms. Maldonado?
sure. I think I knew from the very beginning. Although and I guess Isabella actually tells the story better than I do, but it's appropriate now how we met. It was at a conference in 2017, I think, Murder and Mayhem in Chicago, and we were both presenters, and so was Gillian Flynn, the author of Gone Girl, and we were in the green room, the prep room, and just kind of chatting like authors do, and it turned out we were all kind of silly. Not all authors are fun and silly, but the three of us turned out to be that way, and we were joking and saying, what if we were to write a novel together? Well, because we all write thrillers, what would that be like? And we think, well, all serial killers have been done, terrorists have been done, the heist has been done. What about a mafioso book, except the Godfather is an infant? And the log line, we thought this was great, that the diapers aren't the only thing that's loaded. And but fortunately that did not survive the end of the session at the green room. For the sake of our careers and readers out there, we never went forward with that. But I knew right there that Isabella had a sense of humor, as do I like to think I do, and I certainly appreciate humor, and very easy to work with, very humble person as well. And then on several other meetings, the idea of writing together came up seriously. Now, I don't play well with others. I've written one joint project that was with John Sanford, and it was kind of a throwaway short story to raise money for international thriller writers, and that was fun to do. But I have the TV show going on, some movies and stuff. I don't go to the set. I don't consult. I consult a little bit, but really, I don't do much of anything with that because I can, I get to make up stuff and sit in a dark room and write, and nobody bothers me. But I found that we had a very good rapport. Creatively, we're on the same page, and very importantly, we had the same tone in our writing. And some of it's technical. The third person close point of view, twists and turns, books take place over a short period of time. And that was very good. I will say one thing that I learned that was absolutely brilliant, and I never articulated, but Isabella pointed out that, we like our chapters to end on a springboard. And I hadn't really articulated it that way. And so when we did the outline, she made sure that every single chapter was like a slingshot that launched the reader into something else. Ooh. And here I am talking real big, like Jake Heron, the computer guy, and I do a little coding and, I do things like that. I've written a number of books about computers, but she came up with this brilliant idea that, what good does chapter 37 do? I'm talking about the heading, chapter 37. Who knows what the hell is in chapter 37? So her idea was to, rather than number the chapters, to give a description of what happens. Jake and Carmen get in hot water because the villain is tracking them down. Well, that's brilliant. And then hyperlinks it to the chapter itself. So at the beginning, you just double click, alt click, and there you go. And so here I am, rather egotistically saying, I know a lot about computers and hacking. And she said, no, here's the way we have to do it. So anyway, I think we learned a lot from each other.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I have a follow-up question, but first I just want to remind everyone that Jeff and Isabella are coming on today to take all of your most pressing questions, and their latest collaboration, The Grave Artist, is out now, and you can order from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book. So whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram with us, here is that link that you can click and order The Grave Artist and get your hands on this collaboration between two best-selling authors who are collaborating together for this very exciting series. While you are clicking and ordering, I will just say my follow-up question is, having had the pleasure of interviewing you both separately and also together, I've taken so many nuggets that from each of you. So Jeff, for instance, I often think and often share with people about the time that I first interviewed you, and you shared that you can spend up to 6 months plotting out your book, and the outlines can go to 180 pages. I think about that all the time, and you have made a plotter of this former pantser. And Isabella, something that I think about that you told me was that in your days as a police captain, in the many, many interrogations rooms that you sat in, you never met one accused person who thought of themselves as the bad guy. Everyone always thinks of themselves as the good guy. I think about that frequently. And I always hold tight to that as well. Is what I would ask each of you, what is there something that you have taken from each other that has really changed how you have written since collaborating, that you'll carry back into your solo careers? I'd like to start with either of you.
Jump in if I could. I think it gets back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, that I tend to do my plots first and then populate the books with characters afterwards. And I think in working with Isabella, I didn't do that quite so extensively in our two books, and I've taken that into my own books, the Coulter Shaw books and the Lincoln Rhyme books, primarily in this sense that I consider the character while I'm creating the plot. For instance, Coulter Shaw, the character on the Tracker TV show, I do a plot and then kind of throw him in and say, okay, Coulter, get to work, here you go. But now he says, no, not so fast. I want to add my 2 cents worth, and I've got some issues here that we need to deal with. And so I think that is, probably enhanced my own writing, given depth to the stories on my solo work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jeff. And what about you, Isabella?
Well, it's the similar kind of thing, but a little bit of a different, and getting into the plotting. My plotting that I did, or my outlining in advance, I should say, was more loosey-goosey. I did not have it nailed down as tight as Jeff does. And so that is something that I am getting better about. I mean, my outline would be maybe 15 pages, 20 at the most, was nothing like what he does, but I'm seeing so much of the value. And then again, and I want to also, for all the pantsers out there, do not be afraid. Just because it's in your outline doesn't mean it's chiseled in stone. And Jeff and I do go in and we tweak the outline as we go. And so I think so many people are afraid of trying it. And, if you can be open-minded and flexible about your outline, it really can be helpful. So I think I'm doing better. And that means I'm throwing away less work. Because yes. Pantsing is such a wasteful thing, but yeah.
So you were a plotter, Isabella, but you have become a tighter plotter since collaborating with Mr. Deaver.
Absolutely, yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah, and the same. I think is what Isabella has said is exactly right. I think so many people think, or have said to me over the course of, I think I've done 500 interviews now, I wouldn't want to plot because that would constrain my creativity. But actually, it helps you to be more creative and now at this point in my reading and my interviewing, I think when I read a book, I can tell whether it has been plotted or pantsed. I have a sense. I have a feeling I can now tell. So thank you for both of those. It's such an interesting, insight. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you both this. Did you say it was a 2-book deal?
Well, that was the first deal.
Okay.
So,
is there another deal?
Yes.
Can you break the story here?
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Yes, there is a third in the series starring Jake and Carmen, and it's essentially about.
He's got you in suspense. Do you feel it?
We are suspense writers, and we need to leave you in suspense. And did you notice that was probably just the right amount of time, because you can only withhold the punchline for so long, and then they start to think you're nuts and they dislike you.
Or I start to turn blue and hyperventilate.
But when I teach my course in writing, I say, what's the most important thing you can do in suspense? And then I do just that. And then I say, you promise something and then you don't deliver. I'm not going to bring up Washington, D.C. again because we do it legitimately. But then you do have to deliver at some point. And what I will say is this. The book continues the saga of Jake and Carmen. Now, one thing about our writing is that there are two arcs involved. One is the arc within the book itself. I guess I'd call that the intramural arc, so that there's a bad guy introduced or bad gal introduced and a terrorist plot or a murder or whatever. And our guys are good and they solve the crime. This isn't giving anything away. But they don't solve all the crime. And they don't end all the suspense. Why? Because that's the convention of this. So there's the, I guess you'd say, the interscholastic plot that goes into the arc that goes into other books. And so in the third book, readers, that is all of you out there who are now buying that book, I know you are going to find that there are a few, although there's a very satisfying resolution, there are some issues that will propel our characters into the future. Some are crime-oriented, but some, more importantly, involve what we call with affection the soap opera element of the story, and that in The Grave Artist tends to do more with between Carmen and her sister, and they have some familial issues that are quite important and quite raw. And then, but then in the third book, Jake Heron has some issues with his family. He was his parents were in a cult, and not a cult, a cult, and they neglected Rudy, his brother, and Jake to their serious detriment. And now that past has surfaced again, and Jake needs to get out there in the world and do something about it, which may or may not conflict with the very, very dangerous, deadly, serious case that Jake and Carmen are working on, about which, did I mention you're going to have to buy the book to find out?
Well, thank you for that perfect cue up, because the book is available. Book 2 is available here, and you can order it it is fresh off the presses, and you can order it right here from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book, where I have bought signed books from both of you. And Jeff even drew me a Christmas tree and a Hanukkah dreidel and called me his dear friend. So no pressure, Isabella, but the mark that must be met or exceeded is dear friend. So you got to step it up a notch if you want to.
I will say the art will not be an issue because I am a better. I think it was Clint Eastwood who said in one of the Dirty Harry movies, a man's got to know his limitations. And I am I'm not saying I'm a great writer, but I'm a better writer than I am an artist. So.
Listen, I treasure my Jeff Deaver doodle. I love my Deaver doodles. And I think it just makes it so special. And it's also very special to support independent bookstores. So whether you're watching with us on Facebook, here is the link for all my Facebook friends, or YouTube, here's the link for all my YouTube friends. You can click and pre-order. It is hyperlinked. So just go right ahead and click and get your mitts on the world of Carmen, Jake, the bad guy, and this fabulous collaboration between two of our very favorite writers. I want to thank you guys for coming on once again. And again, it has been such a pleasure to interview both of you separately and together. And it's just so fun to see, because I love the worlds that you create. And George, again, I don't think I could top your very, very thoughtful description of both of their works. But I love seeing how your work twines together and meshes, and it just is so fun when I see a co-written book from two people that I love. It's just extra fun. I did want to share very quickly some of the incredible praise that this book has earned. I'm going to pop it up so we can all read it together. First, from Booklist, who says that Deaver and Maldonado deliver another entertaining thriller with differing takes on grief, strong female characters, familial discourse, and an internal knowledge of law enforcement proceedings and departments. I especially appreciated that. I felt like it was a special shout out to Captain Maldonado over here. And I did just want to share one more, which was this one from the Midwest Book Review, which talked about your ability to create memorable characters. I'm going to pop that one up so we can just take a quick peek at it as well, because I thought it was really interesting how they said they praised your unexpected, gut-wrenching, cliff-hanging plot twists and turns with a highly recommended rating. Congratulations on this incredible collaboration, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on, giving us the inside scoop. And I look forward to having you back whenever book 3 drops. And remember, y'all, you heard it here first.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your enthusiasm. And it is always so much fun to talk to you.
Oh, thank you to my dear friend, Jeff Deaver, and my second best friend, Isabella.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right, y'all, that is a wrap from us. I hope your week is off to a killer start, and I will be back with you next week. Take very good care until then.